do. Y'all know what to do. Come on in, drop a comment in the chat. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Hope everybody having a great Thursday. Hope everybody having a productive Thursday. Yeah, man, y'all come on in, man. Drop a comment in the chat. Let me know where y'all tuning in from. I got another valuable resource for y'all today. I know in the past few live videos, we were kind of going over the book Back to Basics and going over some things within that book, but I got a new book for y'all today. And I want to kind of show you why it's a valuable resource for all homesteaders. And this is one of the most valuable resources you can have. I'm an advocate for books, especially hardcover books, man, that you can have in your library. Ebooks are fine, all that's fine, but I prefer hardcover because with hardcover, you'll never lose it. You'll never, I mean, you know, of course, if something, you know, catastrophic happened, you'll lose it. But I'm saying for the most part, you don't have to worry about the grid going down and nothing like that. You know, if you got hardcover books, if you got physical books, you're able to always use those books to refer back to. So y'all come on in, man. Drop a comment in the chat. Let me know where y'all tuning in from. Come on in, man. And hit that like button too for me, please. I would definitely appreciate it. Definitely appreciate it. But I want to get into this book and talk a little bit about it and show you why it's valuable and why I recommend it. And this is one of the top 5 books I definitely recommend for beginners who want a homestead, and even seasoned, you know, vets and everything like that. You don't got to be a beginner, but you know, those of us who are in the homestead and community, this book is a you know, in my top 5 recommendations. So y'all come on in, man. Drop a comment in the chat, and then we'll get started. Let me see if we got anybody in there. I'll give it a few. And I referenced this book in a previous live. I kind of showed it, but I didn't go into it. So today I want to kind of go into it and talk about it. So y'all come on in, man. Let me know. Let me know. Let me know where y'all tuning in from. Let me see. But I ain't gonna wait forever. I'm gonna just go ahead and get into it. And if you're catching the playback, drop a comment in the chat if you benefited from this live, and if you're gonna add this book to your library. Like I say, I'm a huge advocate for books, especially you want to be a homesteader, you want to be a farmer. You know what I'm saying? Whatever it is, you want to be self-sufficient, you need books, you need resources. Leave that alone. Leave that alone. You need books. You need resources. You need, you know, just different types of things that you can refer back to, just in case you're doing something specific. You're working on a project. You're building, excuse me, you're building something out on your land, or you want to add to your land or develop your land or whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? This book right here, it's called 40 building projects for your backyard homestead. And it's a hands-on step-by-step guide, right? So whatever it is, and I'll let y'all look at the cover for a little while. And the author is David Tott. And so basically, it's 40 building projects for your backyard homestead. So whether it's garden, you know, buildings, you know, building stuff for your garden, whether it's, you know, building stuff for your livestock, fencing, you know, just all that type of stuff. In the book, Back to the Basics, it kind of hits on, you know, some of these things as well. You collecting leaves? It kind of hits on some of these things, but this right here goes into detail. And I'm going to just share some things from this book, but I recommend everybody go purchase this book right here. And if y'all in here, man, please hit that like button, drop a comment in the chat. What's going on? Ben on the rise. What's going on, family? This book right here, I recommend everybody get this. If you're a homesteader, farmer, you want to be self-sufficient, even if you're a backyard gardener or you just keep chickens or whatever, grab this book right here, right? And then after I'm done, I'll leave a link. But, you know, you can go on Amazon and find it. It's pretty easy to find, right? But I want to hit on a few things, right? And I'm going to show you why this is a gem right here, why this is a valuable resource, why everybody, especially if you want to live off the land, should have this book. And I'm gonna just go into it. I want to hit a few things. But right here immediately, like as soon as you open the book, right, it has a metric conversion. So you're able to convert different metrics, right? So let's just say you don't, you know what I'm saying, you don't really know how to convert different metrics as far as inches to centimeters, you know, square inches, all that type of stuff. It shows you how to do it right here. So it's like I say, it's a resource, it's a guide, it's something you can refer back to just in case you need to convert something. Now, I know we got Google, but what I'm saying is in the case of when you don't have Google, when you don't have the internet, if and when you don't have the internet. And again, it don't have to be something that like, oh, it's the end of the world type thing, although it could be. But I'm just saying, as far as, let's just say there's a power outage in your area. You know what I'm saying? There is a hurricane or a tornado or a flood that came through, and you're not able to access the internet, right? And you're kind of off grid, right? And you are living a somewhat self-sustainable, self-sufficient lifestyle. You might not have Google at your fingertips, but guess what? You can refer back to this if you want to convert different metrics, because you'll have a hard copy of this right here. If y'all in here, man, hit the chat, man. Hit that like button too. Hit that like button. So that's right off the bat, right? That's right off the bat. I wanted to point that out though, because I feel like that's a valuable resource to have. And so, you know, it's got different contents as far as what it talks about, different chapters and stuff like that. So garden structures, fences and pens. I know somebody on one of my previous lives was asking about fencing. Get over here, Kamara. Was asking about fencing and what I would recommend and how to put up fencing and stuff like that. But this book goes into it. This book goes into it. Oh, wow, that's nice. My daughter around here picking flowers. You know, little kids, man, just doing little kid stuff out in the country. I feel like ain't no better lifestyle, but so fencing and pens, housing chickens, so building chicken coops, chicken tractors. What's going on, Miss Drea? What's going on? What's going on? Y'all hit that like button for me. Building sheds, right? Goat sheds, sheep sheds, regular sheds where you just want to store stuff. It also talks about, and back to the basics, also talks about this too, but solar and wind power. So harvesting energy. But this shows you how to build, you know what I'm saying? Windmill, solar power, or installing solar powers and stuff like, solar panels and stuff like that. It talks about how to build your aquaponics and hydroponic systems. You see what I'm saying? It talks about how to build all that stuff. So there's chapters for all of this, and building beehives. So let's just say, you know what I'm saying, you want to be a beekeeper, right? You want to have some beehives. It shows you how to build beehives and different things like that. Plumbing and wiring. So, you know what I'm saying, you want to run some pipes and stuff for plumbing and all that. Like, let's just say you want to be truly self-sufficient. You want to develop your own land, build your own house or structure or cabin or whatever. This talks about how you know what I'm saying, you can do plumbing work and different things like that, wiring work, right? So I want to go into just some tips on getting started with homesteading. Let me see how many people we got. We got 4 people on here, man. Y'all hit that chat. Let me know where y'all tuning in from. So I want to talk about some tips on getting started, right? As far as from this book. Because again, this is a book about building. And see, before I get into it, this book is so important because, you know, like I said, outside of just having it as a resource, a physical resource, when you are homesteading, farming, backyard gardening, keeping chickens, you know what I'm saying, even as a homeowner, you are going to have to learn how to be handy. You're going to have to build stuff. Okay, tuning in from Kansas. Shout out to Kansas. You're going to have to build stuff. That's what it's going to be. You're going to have to build and maintain stuff. Especially if you want to be self-sufficient, you want to have the livestock, you want to have the garden, you want to have the chickens, you want to have the turkeys, you want to have the ducks, you want to have the cattle, the pigs, whatever it is. Tulsa, Oklahoma. Shout out to Tulsa. Okay, Oklahoma in the house. Shout out to Tulsa. You know what I'm saying? You want to have the bees, the beehives, and, you know, all the dog pens, the dog kennels, all these things. You want to have the well, you know what I'm saying, where you can get your water from, all this stuff. You're going to have to learn how to build yourself. What's going on, Dwayne PK? Bless up, fam. Bless up, fam. Appreciate you for hitting that chat and tuning in. Y'all hit that like button too if y'all haven't already. You know what I'm saying? But you're going to have to learn how to be somewhat handy. That's just what it is. And that's what people have to realize first and foremost. You're going to have to put your hand to the plow, because you're not always going to be able to pay somebody, and you're not always going to want to pay somebody to do these things. Now, a lot of times, like I say, if you want to get started and you want to just throw money at things and have people build this and build that and develop your land and all that type of stuff, you can do that. But I feel like that takes away a lot of the experience. That takes away the self-sufficiency aspect. You know what I mean? Like, you want to have your hands on at least 80 to 90% of what's being built on your land, what's being done, how your land is being developed, because you want to learn how to do it. You want to have that life skill. Salute. What's going on, IZB? Salute, fam. Appreciate you for tuning in. Kamar, get over here where I can see you. I know. Here, it's flowers all over there. All right, go collect those flowers over there. Oh, go get those oranges out the tree. Yeah, the oranges. Yeah, we still ain't picked those oranges. Right there. You don't see the orange tree right there? But you're going to have to be somewhat handy. You're going to have those skills. And like I said, when you're talking about self-sufficiency, what is the word? What's the first word in self-sufficiency? The first word is self. So that means you are going to have to do the work. You are going to have to put your hand to the plow. You are going to have your hands on things. You're going to have to do things on your land. So this book right here, it makes it somewhat easier and simpler. It breaks a lot of the different projects, because there are going to be some common things that every homesteader is going to have to build, right? If you're going to be gardening, you're going to be building raised beds. You're going to be building trellises and different things like that. You're probably going to want to put up a fence around your garden, right? If you want chickens, that means you're going to have to build chicken coops, different structures for chickens. You know what I mean? So, but this book goes into that, some of the common things that you're going to have to build on your homestead. So that's, before I get into it, I want to get that spill. So getting started, it says, here are some friendly neighbor over the fence tips that may help you as you plunge into a project, right? So some beginner tips as far as when you want to get into projects, because when you first buy your land, you're going to want to do a whole bunch of projects. You're going to see, say, okay, I want my garden right here. This is the project I want to focus on right now. Or I want to go ahead and just get the chicken. So, okay, I'm going to start on this chicken coop, start on this project, whatever project it is. So the first tip is this. Make the exterior screw your default fastener. Pre-drilling and driving screws takes a bit longer than nailing, but screws hold much better, and you can back them out if you make a mistake. All right, so make the exterior screw your default fastener. So basically what that's saying, for those of you who don't know what an exterior screw is, when you go to any Lowe's or Home Depot or any type of hardware store and you're buying screws, get the exterior screws. Make that your default, because you have interior screws, you have exterior screws. Drywall screws, those are different type of screws. You have the Phillips head, you have the star bit. I usually go for the star bit screws because they don't strip. And if you don't know what stripping means, like the tip of a screw, so say this is the back of a screw and you're screwing it into a piece of wood or a wall or whatever. The Phillips head, which kind of looks like a cross, those strip more easier than a star. So a star, I wish I could show you a star bit, but it's just basically in the shape of a star. And those don't strip as easy as Phillips head. So I would recommend exterior screws with the star bit. You see what I'm saying? So that's just a tip right there. So make exterior screws your default fastener. And it talks about why screws are better than nails in a lot of cases. Because this is the thing, like, I'm gonna be honest, if you, like, nails are good, don't get me wrong, nails are good, especially if that's all you got. Hammer and nail, by all means. But with nails, let's say you drive a nail or you hammer a nail into a structure and you realize it's in the wrong place, it's harder to get that nail out than it is to drive a screw out of that wood or whatever it is. So that's why they say, backing screws out is easier than nails. And it says screws hold much better. But this is the only downside about screws. And this is what I learned, because I would say I'm a novice, as far as with carpentry, but I do have some experience because I have built some things. And I like to kind of, do a little research and watch different tips and stuff like that. The only downside about screws, and this is what nails have over screws, screws will break easier. Like, as far as in half, they will break easier than nails will. Nails will bend. Nails won't necessarily break. You know what I'm saying? So if you frame a structure with nails, that structure will be more solid, because if like, say, something, hurricane, wind, heavy winds, tornado, something like that, if it hits that structure, the nails won't break, but they will bend. But screws will most likely break. You see what I'm saying? So that's the only downside about screws. But screws hold better, though. They are stronger. But when they break in half. They don't bend like nails would. Let me know if that's making sense in the chat. Let me know if you're learning something. Let me know if you're learning something. Y'all talk to me. Y'all know how I am, man. I like to see the chat going. I like to see people in the chat talking. Make sure I ain't, talking to myself. I want to make sure y'all learning something. Especially, if you're new to this. Because what I'm saying is very elementary, but at the same time, we all got to start at elementary if we're going to learn it. I didn't know this stuff when I first started homesteading. I learned this over time. I learned this through experience. I learned this from books and YouTube videos and, you know what I'm saying? Different internet resources and stuff, you know, researching on the internet. That's how I learned a lot of this stuff. And then trial and error. As a homesteader, you know what I'm saying? When you're building stuff, you're going to learn a lot of stuff through trial and error. The more projects you do, yes, I didn't realize that with the screws and nails. Okay. Yeah, like the more projects you do, as you do more projects, you start to get better and you start to realize, okay, because when you first doing it, like I say, it's gonna be trial and error. So you're gonna have to run the Lowe's a few times, a Home Depot, whatever your hardware store you go to, because you're like, oh man, I forgot this, or oh, I forgot that, or oh, I can get this, that'll make this easier. You know what I'm saying? But as you continuously building and stuff like that, and you kind of, you know, get accustomed to it, you already know, like, okay, I'm gonna start on this project. This is what I know I'm gonna need, so I'm gonna go and get that. Now, you still might have to run to the store a few times, maybe once, you know what I'm saying, as you get more experience, but for the most part, you'll be good. But yeah, with the screws and the nails, yes. So there's advantages and disadvantages, you know what I'm saying, with using screws versus nails. But screws hold better. They're better fasteners. They're stronger. But like I say, if they put under enough pressure, they will break. They won't bend. Nails will bend. That's why you know, that's the only, well, one of the only advantages that nails have over screws. Nails will bend and it won't break the structure. Screws will break. But make the exterior screw your default fastener. So when you go into the store, when you go into Lowe's or Home Depot, I say Lowe's a lot because that's what we got in my town. We don't got Home Depot. I got to drive an hour to go to Home Depot. So I go to Lowe's mostly. Just go down the aisle where it got the nails and stuff and the screws, and you'll see. And like, you know, when you, I know in Lowe's they do it, I don't know if Home Depot, but like they'll have the actual size of the nail, like a sample nail to show you how, you know what I'm saying, long the nail is. Usually I go with 3-inch screws, you know what I'm saying, or nails. You know, I feel like that's pretty standard, or 2.5 inches. But yeah, so that's what it is. All right, so the next tip, if a circular saw seems too much machine for you to handle, use a saber saw instead. With the square or other straight edge as a guide, it yields a neat, true cut. So if you don't want a circular saw, like I got a miter saw, and then you can also have a circular saw, but if that's too much for you, use a saber saw. I don't know what a saber saw is, I'm gonna be honest, because like I said, I got a circular saw and a miter saw, and that gets the job done for me. But look into what that is. Look into a saber saw. You know what I'm saying? That'll be better if you don't want, you know, the heavy duty saw and stuff like that. If you're just doing small projects, like you're not cutting huge pieces of wood and lumber, 2x4s, a lot of 2x4s, then, you know, the saber saw may be the saw for you. All right. And I say this one all the time, this next tip. Measure twice, cut once. So when you are working on projects, when you building stuff, measure twice, cut once. Meaning check, double check, triple check. Make sure, okay, this is the size, this is what it needs to be cut to. I'm gonna measure it again, I'm gonna outline it, or mark it, and then I'm gonna measure it one more time just to make sure it's, you know, that's what it is, and then you cut. Because you don't want to measure once and then have to go get a whole nother 2x4 because you done messed up on the measurement. You was off by a little bit. You feel what I'm saying? Like, and that's something that we can apply to life. That's something we can apply to life. Like, double check, verify before you go through with something. Triple check. You know, what they say, cross your T's, dot your I's. Make sure, you know what I'm saying? Like, attention to detail is how I would put it, for lack of better terms. Make sure you're paying attention to detail with anything. You see what I'm saying? Make sure if you're working on something, a project or whatever it is, it might be on your job or in your business. Make sure you, before you, especially with like big projects, big decisions, big things like that, make sure you double and triple check. Make sure that those measurements and everything, make sure everything checks out, everything is good to go. But especially when you're doing projects, when you're cutting wood, make sure you measure twice, cut once. You don't want to have to waste a whole 2x4. Because, man, wood, lumber ain't cheap. Lumber is not cheap, especially these days with inflation. You know what I'm saying? Lumber is not cheap, so you definitely don't want to be wasting it. All right. Support your work when sawing so that material will not bind when you cut. So basically, what I'm interpreting that as, make sure, like when you're cutting 2x4s or whatever, make sure it has support so it's not bending or binding when you cut it. All right, take the time to set up a clutter-free work area. It will save time in the long run, produce better work, and keep you safe. And that is so true. I feel like I say again, some of these tips and some of this advice can be applied generally, you know what I'm saying? But make sure that your work area, whether you're working in the garden, whether you're working on a project, building something, you know what I'm saying? Whether you're working with the animals, make sure it's clutter-free, make sure it's clean, make sure it's organized or somewhat organized. You know what I mean? Or if you're a person where, you know what I'm saying, you might be unconventional, but you know where everything is, make sure your system is down pat. You see what I'm saying? Because I was the type of person where I'm not a super organized person, but when I was working a job, I would make sure like, okay, I would have a system to where, okay, I know this is that, that's that. It just wouldn't be junky all over the place. But you want to make sure that your place, your area, especially when you're working with wood, especially when you're doing projects, make sure everything is clutter-free and order. You got your screws here, you got your tool belt with this, that, you know what I'm saying? You got your drills over here, you make sure you got everything you need and make sure there's nothing in the way, no clutter or nothing like that. And like I say, it'll save time. It says never cut, and and I'm learning with y'all. I'm learning with y'all. And hit the chat. Let me know if you're learning something. Let me know if this is beneficial. Again, this the book right here. This the book. What is it? 40 projects for building your backyard homestead. Go get this book. I would highly recommend getting this book. But this one right here, I haven't heard. Let's say never cut all of your components in advance. In advance in kit-like fashion, meaning, you know what I'm saying, like it's good to reverse engineer and back plan and stuff like that, and you know, cut different pieces to length and stuff, but it says don't do that, because instead work from your project to make sure the measurements for the new piece suit what you have done thus far. Why? Dimensional lumber may vary in size. So if you try to cut all your pieces of wood in advance, then you might be off somewhere, because, can you send a link to the book? Yes, I can. I have to do it after the video is over, because I don't want to, I'm live on my phone and I don't want to close out and go back in because it'll probably stop the live, but I can do it after the video is over. But it says dimensional lumber may vary in size. So if you, let's just say, you know what I'm saying, you got this project that you're going to do, you cut all your pieces to length, but then you go and try to put them together and you realize, okay, this is off. That's off by this much, or this is off a little bit. That's because, you know, the wood might have, you know what I'm saying, it might not have been what you thought it was. So that's why it's important to kind of, you know what I'm saying, cut some things in advance, but work as you go, just to make sure everything will add up in the end. I guess that's what this is saying. Wear eye, ear, and respiratory protection. This is something I got to get better at, but definitely make sure, especially when you're cutting wood, make sure you got something to cover your eyes. That way all those, you know, wood shavings ain't flying in your eyes and stuff like that. Make sure you got gloves on. In the military, we would call it PPE, your personal protection equipment. You know what I mean? Make sure if you working with loud machinery, like you got the generator going and you got these power tools going, make sure you got some earplugs. You see what I'm saying? Because again, like, it might not affect you right now because you're young, but over time, that hearing loss can set in. You know what I mean? Like, I remember being in the military, and you're gonna hear me talk about my military experience quite a bit, but I can remember being in the military, going to the range, and you would have certain senior NCOs and officers, while the shots going off, they don't have ear protection in. Even when they're shooting, they don't have ear protection in. And you know how loud, you know, rifles can be. But they had been so used to it, whether they had been in combat or just been used to be going to the range, that they don't even use ear protection. And, you know, when we get back to the company or just everyday life, you say something to them, they can't really, you know what I'm saying, they can't hear you, or you got to speak loud or whatever, because they have some hearing loss set in. But it could be the same thing with building projects. You know what I mean? You working with heavy machinery, you got all this noise going on, use some ear protection, save your ears, you know what I'm saying, save your eyes, save your body, make sure you're being safe. And I got to work on that myself. Let me know if I'm making sense in the chat. Gloves make heavy chores seem to go easier. So wearing gloves, it says it makes heavy chores seem to go easier because you are not concerned about splinters and abrasions. So basically, it's just having peace of mind. When you wear gloves, when you make sure you got gloves on, when you're doing stuff, especially working with wood, it takes away, you know, the worry of, oh man, I might get a splinter by carrying this, or might get poked or whatever. You got gloves on, you ain't got to worry about that. Your hands is protected. And the last one is this: improvise. Backyard homesteading is a great laboratory for trying new ideas. If something does not quite work as planned, you can always undo it. That is part of the fun. So again, basically, you know what I'm saying, if you're doing stuff, try new stuff. You know what I'm saying? Improvise. Use your brain. Yes, in my job, they stress about PPE. Thank you for sharing. No, for sure. Yeah, like, in the older that I'm getting, the more I'm realizing just how important PPE is. You know what I'm saying? Because I got cuts on my hand, and, you know what I'm saying, jam fingers and all type of stuff, man, just because I didn't want to take the extra time to put on gloves or, you know what I mean, stuff like that. Might have got some wood flying, you know, wood shavings flying to my eye. Now my eyes red, you know. So as I get older, I realize the importance of it. You just, because again, you want to be able to, you know what I'm saying, after you're done with your project, you good, you healthy, you can get up the next morning and do what you need to do. Instead of saying, man, my eye red, my eye swole, I got to worry about that now, or my finger hurt or whatever. Make sure you wear your PPE. Make sure you're protected while you're doing what you're doing. Because accidents can happen. So just make sure that you're being safe, right? And like I say, improvise. You can improvise. That's what they say. You can improvise. Have fun. It's your homestead. That's your thing. Make it your own. Your homestead don't got to fit the aesthetic of nobody. You see what I'm saying? Your garden don't got to fit the aesthetic of nobody. If you just want to just grow food and you don't care about the aesthetic, or you just, you know what I'm saying, you want to make it look pretty, but you don't want to do what everybody else does, man, it's yours. Make it your own. Chaps is good with chainsaws. What do you mean by that? Chaps is good with chainsaws. But yeah, so I'm gonna get into, I'm gonna just go into like 2 more pages and kind of show y'all why this book is a great benefit. And then you know, I'm gonna let y'all go ahead and go. But I want to talk about this, right? And show y'all this. So the first chapter it talks about garden structures and stuff like that. And so the very first topic is building a wooden raised bed, and it shows you how to do that. So one thing I love about this book is it gives you the tools and the materials you need for each project that it's talking about in here. So it makes your life easier. So if you want to go out and build a garden bed and you going based off of this book, it shows you the tools, right? Shovel, rake, wheelbarrow, measuring tape, level, circular saw, cordless drill driver, bits, framing square, speed square, spring clamps, sledgehammer, sawhorses. It lets you know everything you need. So these are all the tools you need. There's no guesswork. It also lets you know the materials you need to buy. So 2x8, 2x10, or 2x12, pressure treated lumber. Those are protection pants when using the chainsaw. Oh, okay, got you. Chaps pants, got you. Okay, thank you for that exception to the rule. Thank you for that. So the materials for a raised garden bed, standard garden bed, 2x8, 2x6, 2x12 pressure treated lumber, 2x4 pressure treated lumber, 2.5 inch deck screws, 3-inch deck screws. Like I was talking about earlier. What's going on, the nurse, Juris, doctor? Shalom, fam. Like I was talking about earlier when we were talking about screws, they say, okay, make the exterior screw your default screw. So just if you just, you know, stocking up on screws or whatever the case may be, make sure you get in the exterior screws, right? And right here it tells you right here 2.5 inch or 3 inch. You see what I'm saying? That's kind of standard. 2.5 inches to 3 inches, you're gonna be able to screw in what you need. You're gonna be able to screw through the 2x4s, the 2x10s, the 2x6s. Now, if you got, you know, those thicker wooden posts or whatever, then you're gonna need longer screws. But that just is what it is. But again, this right here, building a garden bed, the tools you need, the materials you need. It takes all the guesswork out of it. And then one thing I love about it, and I'll get into it after, well, no, I'll get into it right here. It shows you the pictures of how to do it in each step. Like, it's like, you know, when you buy like a, if you buy something on Amazon, right, that needs to be assembled by you, it gives you kind of, you know, the pictures or the steps of how you do it, right? It gives you the, you know what I'm saying, how to do it. Because a lot of people, they're not good with instructions that have to be read off. A lot of people would prefer pictures. See what I'm saying? Pictures make everything easier because you're able to see, okay, so this step, it should look like this. That's what I love about this. It makes it so easy that even a caveman can do it. You see what I'm saying? So first step, smooth and level the site. It shows you could do it with your shovel. You know what I mean? The next step, hold on. Cut your stuff, you know, cut the side and end boards to length. So then cut your boards. Once you level out the site, cut your boards, right? It shows you how to do it. It shows you how you should be using that speed square to cut, right? And then you got your circular saw, right? And then fasten the corners. So then now you drilling in the corners. You see what I'm saying? And then driver pointed 2x4 stake. Drive that into the ground. Then square up the corners. Make sure the corners are square. Shows you how to do it. Level it. So pound each stake and level it, right? You see them using the leveler. And then, you know what I'm saying, just continue going around, right? Depending on how high you want it, whatever. So this gives you literally the picture instructions on how to build it, right? And it does this for all the projects, right? And this is it continued until you're done. And then you go through all these different steps all the way until you're done, right? And then also it shows you a quicker way to do a raised bed with straw, right? You could just do straw. You could use a straw bale and you can make it a square and you can plant in that. So it's just like, man, this book is very practical. And like I said, it's a resource to have if, God forbid, we don't have the internet no more. If the grid goes down, stuff hits the fan, hurricane hit your area, tornado hit your area, you don't have electricity like that, you don't have the internet at your fingertips, at least you got this resource, you got this book where you can start, you know, growing some food or continue growing food, continue building whatever, right? And then it talks about pressure treated lumber. And that's one thing I wanted to hit on too, because when you building, you know, raised beds and stuff like that, a lot of people like to get untreated lumber. And that's what I heard too. When I first started doing research in gardening years back, you know, people on YouTube would say, don't get pressure treated lumber. You know what I'm saying? Because those chemicals will seep into your soil and your plants that you're growing and it won't be healthy. You know what I mean? But right here, it talks about that, right? And this just taught me something that I didn't know. It says, many gardeners shun the use of any pressure-treated lumber, fearing their produce will pick up harmful chemicals. The good news is that chemicals used in the treatment have changed over the years. So how they used to pressure treat, you know, lumber previously, it changed over the years with the chemicals that they would use, right? It says prior to 2003, chromated copper arsenate was the prime ingredient for protecting wood from rot. And that's why they pressure treat wood, to protect it from rot, to make it last longer. It said, this was the ingredient, chromated copper arsenate. It was more than up to the job, but toxic to people and animals. That's the second book we bought from your suggestions. It arrived a few days ago. It's now part of our Homestead Gardening Library. Told out, and y'all's blessed to you and your family. Most definitely, thank you, fam. I'm glad you bought that book. Congratulations on your purchase. And look, I hope, you know what I'm saying, it benefits y'all and, you know what I'm saying, it stays in your library a long time. You're able to pass it to your kids or whatever. But most importantly, you got it. So now you're able to use it and just have it as a resource. So congratulations on your purchase. All right. So basically, the copper arsenate, you know, what they used prior to 2003, it was, you know, toxic to people and everything like that. It was, you know what I'm saying? And it says the Environmental Protection Agency banned it. So that was banned. You know what I'm saying? That chemical that they used, they banned it. Kamar, go tell your brothers to come here. They banned it, right? And so they used something else. They started using something else, right? It says suppliers turn to two alternative preservatives, alkaline copper quat and copper azole. Both contain copper and a fungicide, but no arsenic. The arsenic was, you know what I'm saying, what was, you know, really harmful to plants and people and stuff like that. But they changed that, and so now a lot of the pressure-treated lumber doesn't have arsenic in it. They use either alkaline copper quat or copper azole. I don't know what these are, but this is what it's saying. And you're free to do your research. I'm just giving you the information. Both contain copper and a fungicide, but no arsenic. Does that make, they're asking, does it make it safer? And basically, you know, the doctor who does research and stuff and this type of stuff, she said it doesn't make it very harmful. The copper and stuff can seep into the soil and the plants. But basically what she was saying is that, you know, copper isn't, you know what I'm saying, it ain't too harmful for us as humans to consume. You know what I'm saying? So basically that she was saying it doesn't seep into the soil, you know what I'm saying, at a higher rate than arsenic would, but at the same time, it ain't harmful. It won't make a difference. And it says, but on the contrary, if you want to do untreated lumber, then you got to realize that, you know, whether you're building garden beds, chicken coops, whatever, eventually it's gonna be, you know, it's gonna succumb to rot pretty much. So you can use the untreated lumber. A lot of people do that. But if you want to have to replace them after years because, you know, rot didn't set in and all that type of stuff because it wasn't pressure treated, or you can even pressure treat your own wood yourself. You see what I'm saying? If you don't want the standard pressure treated lumber from your hardware store, your Home Depot, your Lowe's, you can buy, like, you know what I'm saying, different options to pressure treat your own wood to make sure that it doesn't rot. So it's options pretty much. But I wanted to talk about that because, you know, the pressure treated thing, it's something that I did, you know what I'm saying, when I started doing research and I started gardening, people was like, no, stay away from pressure treated lumber because all the chemicals, X, Y, and Z. And you know, I did that, but again, over time, the wood will rot, different things you would have to change the beds and stuff like that. But anywho, back to the book. This is what it's called. Check it out. It has many, many more projects. This was just the first one. You know what I'm saying? It talks about chicken coops. Hold on, I'll show you the chicken coops one as well. Fences and pens. Like, it's, matter of fact, this right here, like, say if you don't want to spend a lot of money on a chicken tractor or a chicken coop, it shows you how to do a PVC chicken coop with PVC pipe. What's going on, Mika? What's going on? But it shows you how to build a chicken coop or a pen out of PVC pipe. You feel what I'm saying? And it gives you all the pictures and everything how it should look. And it's like, it's self-explanatory. It's self-explanatory. And then this is the final result of how it looks. You know what I'm saying? Cost effective. You know what I'm saying? If you're on a budget, it has different, you know what I'm saying, things you can build. Shows you how to build heavy duty chicken coops. You know, framing them and everything. You know, I just want to kind of flip through it and show y'all, but the most important thing is go and get it. Go and buy this book. Go and buy this book. I'm not trying to sell you this book because I'm not putting an affiliate link in here. I'm telling you, go on Amazon and buy this book because it's gonna benefit you. Oh. You know, building sheds, just different things like that, right? It's just this right here combined with the basics. Like I say, they are easy to understand. They're good resources to reference back to just in case you need to learn something or go, you know, you're building a project or you developing some land or whatever, you can go and refer back to that chapter in that book. It's got pictures in it, you know what I mean? It's got step by step. It's like so easy a caveman can do it type of thing, right? So this is in my top 5 books I recommend for beginner homesteaders, you know, just as a resource to have to your library. Again, I feel like everybody should have at least, you know, a few books, you know, key books that you can learn from, you can refer back to just in case you're not able to get on the internet. But with that, man, hopefully y'all learned something. I'm gonna let y'all go ahead and go. I gotta go pick up some lumber that I'm finna get for free. You know what I mean? That's another thing about networking, man. You can get free lumber, free tools, you know, free things from people who don't have uses for it anymore, or, you know, very next to nothing. You can go on Marketplace, Craigslist, stuff like that, you know, but just do the due diligence, man, and really focus on saving money. You know what I mean? When it comes to homesteading, you don't want to always have to dish out money and spend money and different things like that, especially when you don't have to buy things brand new. Man, network with people. See, okay, hey, man, I see you're not using this. Would you sell it to me for a discount? Whatever. Wholesale, all that type of stuff. But yeah, man, go and get it. This is called 40 building projects for your backyard homestead. Talks about how to build everything. And I'm going to let y'all go ahead and go. All right?